Hi, this is Mr. Fredericks, and I'm going to show you how to make a best fit line graph using Google Sheets. So Google Sheets is what's called a spreadsheet, and you open it up exactly from the menu like you would a Google Doc, but you want a Google Sheets. You can also give it a name up here if you want, so maybe it's lab graph, whatever you'd like to call it. So how do we use this? What you're going to want to do is enter some data. Put your X data, the data that goes on the X or the horizontal axis, in the A column, and your B column will be the Y or the vertical data. Do put in the headings. So, for example, in this particular graph, we're going to put time on the X-axis, and I put that in there, and we're going to put velocity on the Y-axis, and I even put the units meters per second. So your units will vary. Maybe you're doing mass and volume for a density experiment, or time and concentration for a kinetics experiment. Now, how do we put the graph in? What we do is we highlight both columns, and you can have more data. I have 7 data points here, but you can have more than that, as many as you need. Also, make sure to highlight the headings. You see that I highlighted total time. I highlighted velocity. Now, just as an aside, my time and velocity, I have like yellow backgrounds. You don't need to do that. I just put it in there so it's easy to see. Now, we're going to put our graph in. We're going to go up to Insert, and they call a graph a chart. Here's what's really important. There's a lot of types that you can use, line charts and area charts and bar charts. And the one that I like may not come up right away, but the one that you want to use to do this kind of graph, you may have to scroll down a bit. It's about 2/3 of the way down. We want a scatter plot. So you'll see it didn't put any lines in, it just put our data points in. What's really nice about this, and Google made some recent improvements, is that it even puts in your X and Y labels, the total time in seconds for me on the X and the velocity meters per second in the Y. And it gives it a title. Now we're ready to put our trend line in. And to do that, we're going to go over to Customize. And you'll see several options. We want the third one, Series. Think about it as data series. Chart style and chart axis and titles, that's just for changing things on the graph the way it looks. We don't want that right now. We want series. So what we're going to do is go down here. You have to go most of the way down under Series and click on Trend Line. We've probably all put in the best fit line by hand, drawing a graph on paper and putting it in by hand, and there's nothing wrong with that. But this is a little bit better because this mathematically gives us the perfect fit line. Now we'd like to see that equation, so we can go Use Equation. It's right under Label, and instead of None, we're going to click on Use Equation. And that'll show us the equation for the line. Now y equals mx plus b. So you can see in this case, our m is our slope, 9.98 times x, and our y-intercept in this example is 0.78. Another thing that's nice to show is the r-squared. The r-squared is the correlation coefficient. Now, the correlation coefficient gives us an idea of how linear, how good our data is, how well it agrees with each other. And an r-squared of 1 is perfect, would mean it's a perfectly straight line. Here we're getting 0.994, which is really, really close to 1, and that tells us that this data is very, very linear. So hopefully that helps, and you'll be able to make nice best fit lines for your labs. Oh, let me show you how to print it. If you click on it, click on the graph, and you see how you get the blue boxes and the blue line around the outside? Then we're going to do Control-C on the keyboard. So it's the Control button and C, and that copies it. And then I just have a blank Google Docs here, so I'm going to go Control-V, paste it in. Now, I would suggest pasting it unlinked. What that means is it's just going to put the picture in, and if you make any changes to the spreadsheet, it will not change this picture. If it's linked, it will make changes, if you change the spreadsheet. So I would do it unlinked, and then here it is in the Google Doc. And you can print it out, or if you're doing a lab report, you could have other things typed in here. And that gets it into a perfect format for you to either print or submit to Google Classroom. So I hope this video was helpful.